behind McCarthy's debut on the road, no less. 1-0 in the NFC North. Joe Musso pleased to be in studio alongside the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS NFL analyst Emory Hunt. Gentlemen, I want to go to that point. 17-6, a pick six for Chicago. The building's rocking. They feel like they're heading towards a win. Emory, what changed from there in your eyes?
Minnesota stayed committed to the run game. And when we're talking about the run game, it was talking about how the offensive line was replacing the defensive line. And what I noticed about Chicago, their linebackers made a lot of tackles, but both linebackers had no TFL, so they weren't making plays behind the line of scrimmage. So Minnesota was getting 4.5 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry. Jordan Mason had over 70 yards, if not 70 yards on the nose, with 5 yards a carry. So the offensive line did a good job of replacing that defensive front, who was doing a good job early in the game of getting after the quarterback, but the run defense is really what put Chicago back behind the 8-ball. Linebackers played solid, but they were not impactful in a run game. They could not get plays behind the line of scrimmage.
You talked about the run for Minnesota. What about the defense for Minnesota? At one point in time in the fourth quarter, around the 4-minute mark, Minnesota offensively had 126 yards of offensive production. The Chicago Bears had -1 yard in the fourth quarter. Chicago had a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter. Remember, when you look at the flow of the game offensively, it was a defensive touchdown that led to the 17 points for Chicago. But what Brian Flores did was started implement blitz concepts, changing some of the coverage in the back end, and they confused Caleb Williams. You remember the first offensive drive for Caleb Williams? It was looking like he was going to have a field day.
10 for his first 10
Yes.
passing in this game. They scored their first drive touchdown in some year and a half. Didn't score a first drive touchdown a year ago. The Ben Johnson offense, those first 10 or 15 scripted. Everything was rolling right along. But as you said, adjustments in game advantage Minnesota.
Adjustments, and then there were 6 third down stops for Minnesota in the fourth quarter. 6 straight third down stops. So you talked about the adjustments offensively. We saw massive adjustments defensively for the Minnesota Vikings that came in the clutch for them to come from behind to win this ball game.
I'll say that, I didn't cut you off, Joe, but second half drives before the last touchdown. Punt, missed field goal, punt.
The Bears scored, again, on the first drive of the game. Didn't reach the red zone until right there outside of the 2-minute mark. That's how futile the game was in between the beginning and the end. And we'll get to some of the individual performances that led us there. But I got to go on the rookie here, or the pseudo-rookie, J.J. McCarthy. Coming up big in a massive moment. He looked confused at points in this game early on. The Bears showing him stuff, the pick six, a late throw outside.
Addition of Jordan Mason started to flourish. Remember when they made that free agent signing this offseason? No one really raved about that. But what Jordan Mason provides for them is the element of bully running. Aaron Jones is a smaller guy, more swifter. Jordan Mason is a guy who loves to lean on you, and his change of pace in the backfield led to their production in the second half that led to a sense of comfort for J.J. McCarthy to make the plays that he made in the fourth quarter.
And what's crazy is that, again, 13 carries, 70 yards for Jordan Mason. But what was interesting was how they utilized the backs in a passing game. And I thought that was big for Minnesota. We saw the deep ball down the sideline to Aaron Jones for the touchdown. And what we also saw for him is just be efficient with the football. It looked a lot like Michigan. We talked about that in the pregame, where you're going to run the football, going to hit your 5 plays. His 5 plays, one was a touchdown pass to Jefferson in the end zone on a good throw. The next was the pass to Aaron Jones. And then we saw the ace in the hole, his own athleticism, when they were running the football so well down the throat to that defense of Chicago. He pulls it, and now it's just him in a safety on the back end for a touchdown. So that was the last. That was, hey, we're going to break in case of emergency. They did it at the right time.
I don't know if anyone else takes satisfaction in a nice clean box score. Both teams ran it 26 times for 120 yards at 4.6 yards per pop. Both sides of this. It looked vastly different. Just goes to show the box score tells a different story than the tape does oftentimes. This was not good Caleb Williams tape, Emory. And you know where I stand on this matter. Having been born and raised in Chicago, waiting for a quarterback to come, hopeful that this is it. It was some of the most troubling tape that we've seen in his career to this point. What did you make of the performance from 18?
Outside of the script, it became what we saw last year in terms of like skittish in the pocket, getting himself sacked at times. We saw the ill-advised sack, quote unquote, where he could have just thrown the ball away but stepped out of bounds, and it gave the sack to the defender nearby, Hargrave. And so we saw some of that because in the beginning part of the ball game, we saw him get outside the pocket. We saw him burn the Vikings constantly with his legs. He had over 50 yards rushing tonight. And so we was like, okay, that's where he can do more damage, and it will cause him to not blitz as much because he's going to kill you with his legs. But when Minnesota started blitzing him and he started to hold the football a little bit too long, that's when things started to happen. And the dump offs were there. He was big game hunting, I felt like. He wanted to hit that intermediate, hit that deep throw when you had the backs out in the flat that he didn't really take advantage of, unlike J.J. McCarthy.
This right here, we know during the pregame show, Joe, you asked us a question in terms of patience for Caleb with this new offense, this new coaching staff, right? And even Ben Johnson said it took some time for him to get the best out of Jared Goff. Remember I said, unfortunately for Caleb Williams, he doesn't have the luxury to exercise patience because of the expectations with his talent level being so high. And that's what we saw tonight. We saw growing pains for Caleb Williams outside of the first drive where he looked very, very comfortable. And then we saw the ebbs and flows in this ball game. They don't want to wait for that. They want to see the benefits right now, especially Caleb in this quarterback matchup. You're playing against a quarterback who was making his first NFL start, who didn't take one snap a year ago. You're supposed to outplay J.J. McCarthy, regardless of how the game ends. The individual matchup, granted, you're not playing against each other. Your stat line should be better than J.J. McCarthy, who was missing his left tackle, who was missing his second best receiver in Jordan Addison. And he flourished and he made the necessary plays. That is the issue for Caleb because of where he was drafted, the expectations. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Unfortunately, he has to wear that crown. He has to deliver like that, and we didn't see that tonight. And then the final thing I'll say about Caleb, he has to learn how to be a professional quarterback. What I mean when I say that, make timely throws within the pocket. Oftentimes he gets into this 7-on-7 mentality where he just want to run around the yard and throw off script. Sometimes you have to do that. But in this offense with Ben Johnson, it's a rhythm. It's a timing offense. You have to have the proper footwork to deliver these passes on time. And we didn't see that, especially in the third and the fourth quarter.
I feel like the underlying story here is Brian Flores out-coached Ben Johnson. And we talk about those numbers, the rushing numbers being exactly the same across the board. The difference was Minnesota had a running game. The Bears are running plays because there was no cohesiveness within the run game. It was, okay, here's 2 carries, and then we're going to throw the football a little bit longer. And then here's 2 more carries, and then it just didn't have any flow. Therefore, you put more pressure on Caleb Williams.
Would have loved to see some of that single read stuff we saw in the preseason. Get him some layups, get him in rhythm. Never really felt like he fell into rhythm, even in that first drive where they drive down the field. A lot of off script, a lot of the play creation rather than the play calling and play execution. There's a lot to be figured out in Chicago coming off of a win that they had in their grasp through about 2.5 quarters, but 17-6 ain't in the barn just yet. 21 unanswered in the midst of this fourth quarter for the Vikings, who finally get one in prime time. The context of it all, a rookie quarterback or a debut quarterback after sitting out a season ago, going on the road in division on Monday Night Football, walking out a winner.